In this video, entitled mother became enraged because our food program was canceled. That food program was the charity of a teacher who passed away. Neighbor had my brother's car towed on our property. And you want your money back on this item that's selling for 10 times what you're paying for and you demand it now? Sounds good. Entitled mother became enraged because our food program was canceled. That food program was the charity of a teacher who passed away. Context: this woman has been a problem parent at the center for as long as her 5-year-old child Molly has been here. The girl started as an infant in our baby room, so that's 5 years of this woman. This EM is not a good person. She would not pack lunches for her daughter. She would often send her then 13-year-old to bring Molly into the daycare because she didn't want to, and at least 3 times a week, teachers had to give the child a bath in the sink, and when she was too big for that, a sponge bath because she smelled so bad. Yes, we called CPS, and I'm not sure what came of that, but I know Molly is still in her custody. It was awful, but there was one saving grace this girl could look to: Jenny. Jenny was the sweetest woman you would ever meet. She worked in one of the preschool classrooms, but her heart was so big and open that she extended her kindness to all children. Every time Molly came in without a lunch, Jenny would make sure she had food, even if it meant driving to the local Walmart or country fair to get her a sandwich. Eventually, Jenny began to bring in food personally for Molly because Molly's EM never packed her lunch. Jenny died suddenly and unexpectedly in 2019. She was young, just barely over 30. EM kept bringing Molly in without lunches, and up until COVID hit, it was an ongoing battle that finally came to a head yesterday. Molly came in at 10:30 yesterday, which was too late for breakfast. In the preschool classrooms, we keep them on a schedule and breakfast ends at 8:30. While they get snack at 10, Molly had snack and lunch started at noon. When the teacher opened her lunchbox to prep her food at lunch, she noticed there was breakfast in there. She decided politely to remind Molly's mother that breakfast ends at 8:30 and if she was planning to bring her in later, to please have her eat before she comes in, because things are already in full swing in the classroom. This was done via a childcare app that we use to communicate with parents. Well, EM did not like that and called the center screaming at our assistant director, AD. This lasted for 10 minutes, and the pregnant AD came into my room, the infant room, angry about all this. She cooled down and went back to her office. The offices are right next to my room, so I was being somewhat nosy and listening in. EM came to pick up Molly, effectively pulling her from the center. There, she got to shouting at the AD. Wouldn't you be upset if they weren't feeding your baby? Wouldn't you want justice and people held accountable? That's when the director, D, stepped in and told the AD to check on the other classrooms. Translation: you don't have to fucking listen to this. I'll handle it. D then followed up with, personally, I would make sure that my child ate breakfast before bringing her in. AD left at that point. EM was throwing a fit about how she didn't like the teachers here, how she thought Tiana, the preschool teacher for the 4 and 5-year-olds, was a raging bitch, and how she didn't like her since the beginning, and how a lot of parents pulled their kids because of her. Thing is, she was confusing Tiana with Tessa, the younger preschool teacher for the 3 and 4-year-olds. Tessa is, admittedly, a strict woman, but her strictness was countered with kindness and positive reinforcement. EM is so out of touch with her daughter's providers that she never even got to meet Tiana. Finally, she delivered the zinger everyone knew was coming, but hopes she had enough class to refrain from saying, "You stopped doing the food program when Jenny died. I think you're just selfish and cheap to honor her memory in continuing it." To which D finally stood up and said Jenny was the food program. She bought that food for Molly out of her own pocket, with her money, that she earned caring for the children here. The reason this so-called food program stopped was because Jenny died. To which EM doubled down and said, well, why wouldn't you continue to buy food for the children in her honor? D, because we don't have the budget to allocate funds for a food program, and in addition, in our handbook, it states we're only to provide snacks. We would need a whole other set of clearances and regulations to start serving food here like a cafeteria. EM, but you did it when Jenny was here. The argument continued back and forth like that until finally D basically said that this was the second outburst that EM had, and that they could no longer accept Molly at the center with this continued behavior. EM, needing to get the last word in, finished with, "Fine, I don't want to send my child to a place that starves her." Then she left with Molly. My heart breaks for the child, but there's not much else to do. I just can't believe how classless you have to be in one argument to bring up a beloved, saintly person like Jenny and then basically insinuate that our wonderful AD was gonna be a bad mother while acting like we are still somehow the assholes for canceling our non-existent food program. Neighbor had my brother's car towed on our property. I'm pretty pissed because this happened just a few hours ago. Cast, me, my neighbor, who from here on out will be referred to as Nosy Old Brat, NOB for short. And yes, she's an entitled boomer. Her husband, nice neighbor, my brother, mentioned rather than involved, and my grandmother. For some backstory, NOB and I both live on corner houses next to a busy street, which is relevant to the story. And oh man, is this lady bordering on insane levels of crazy and nosy because oh my god, she's nuts. I've lived in this house my entire life with my grandmother. I'm 28, and where I live, it's hard to live on your own, especially in the pandemic going on now and being temporarily out of work because finding work that's disabled accommodating is a pain, especially when you have asthma and people are paranoid that an asthmatic has COVID. I get it, but it's tiring to explain that no, I don't have the virus. I have asthma and I can't infect anyone with my bad lungs. And NOB used to watch me for a little bit when I was 6 until my aunt could pick me up to go babysit me. This apparently has given her the mindset that she can attempt to control my life and tattle on me to my grandmother, who nowadays knows when I have company, and if a friend parks in the driveway, I call or text her to let her know and ask her to let me know when she'll be home so I can tell my friend they need to move their car unless grandma tells me that it's fine and she'll park on the side of the street, which she does occasionally even if there's no one in the driveway. A non-issue, right? Not to NOB. She's been known to get up in my business, to go and knock on my door and demand to know who's there, and if I'm doing the nasty with those friends, I'm asexual. So it's hilarious to me when people ask if I'm sleeping around, but it's infuriating when NOB asks this because she's nosy as fuck and thinks she practically owns the neighborhood due to the aforementioned corner houses and acts as if this is an HOA. It's not, thank everything, and she's in charge. As should we be because our house is on the other corner. She makes calls on other people's behalves constantly. We're no different. Anyway, dressing the stage aside, the story of the title. Alright, so my little brother is a Marine and is currently deployed in Hawaii, and his car has been on our property for a while now because, well, he can't come and drive it since he's in Hawaii. This apparently gives her the idea to call a tow truck because it hasn't been moved since he left it. It's not even a terrible looking car either, but I guess it pissed her off that it was sitting there due to it being a car she didn't know. My grandmother's now dead truck has been there longer, but NOB knows whose it is because she's seen her drive it. This happened between the time my grandmother and I left for Costco and the time we got home. NOB called the towing truck to tow my brother's car because, in her batty old boomer logic, after my grandmother went over to her house to confront her, it's been there for over 2 weeks and is just sitting there on our property, not hurting anything. Her husband, nice neighbor, was unaware his wife did this because he likely wasn't home, so he said that he wasn't sure when he talked to us. So, now my grandmother has to call the police and the towing company to get the car back, and she is rightfully furious, as am I, about this because it means another towing fee that was completely unnecessary. She can't even get it until tomorrow because nothing is even open. She was met with voicemails of the towing not even being open either, which was bizarre before 7 p.m., but whatever. I don't know the towing hours since we haven't had to deal with that before. I absolutely hate NOB with a seething and unholy passion because this isn't the first time she's attempted this garbage either. She's done this on other neighbors because she thinks she can police the neighborhood because of her corner house logic. I don't care how rude this makes me, but I will not be paying the towing fee and I will not be letting my grandmother pay it. NOB will be paying that because it was none of her business to be nosying her old face into things. I don't care if you're old. You don't stick your nose in someone else's business and life, especially if the thing in question is on someone else's property. I'll take this woman to court if she refuses to pay for this because she has had no right to do this. I mean, what was my brother supposed to do? Be all like, oh, hey guys, it's been 2 weeks. Let me go back to my grandmother's and drive my car around the block. I'll be back on Monday with all the flights. Yeah, as if his CO would allow for that just because of NOB. You want your money back on this item that's selling for 10 times what you're paying for and you demand it now? Sounds good. I run an anime/geek store and we're really lenient with pre-orders. We used to not require a deposit to make an order, and in case you needed more time to pick up an item, all you had to do was ask. We could also hold the items for as long as needed in storage if you wanted to gather a lot of items so you could save on trips/shipping. Back on February, Funko released a special edition. This one in particular had a 1 in 6 chase variant that ended up reaching up. But the way I do pre-orders is that if you order 6 of the same piece, you're guaranteed a chase. But if you only order 1, you still get a 1 in 6 chance of getting the chase. I just mix them up in random boxes and do a public stream raffle on social media so everyone knows who won the chase. And I get good publicity that way. A client ordered just one and left $5 as a deposit. The piece was $15. This particular client won the raffle along several other clients, but he wasn't that interested in picking it up or paying for the rest of it. I sent him a message letting him know that he had won the special variant and had a week to pay it or he'll lose his pre-order. At first, he was angry because he wanted the normal version, not this yellow thing. But we explained we could change it if he wanted, but that this one was far more valuable. He said he asked his son and his son wanted it anyway, but asked for more time to pay, so we gave him 1 more week. Then he asked for another week, and another. Then we had to close the store for a time for, 2020 reasons, and we told him we had to close, but we could still schedule an appointment to give him his item or wait until the worst passed. He never answered. Eventually, we were able to reopen the store with regulations in place and send him another message telling him we can save it for as long as needed in these strange times. He still didn't answer the messages, but at this point he arrived at the store and demanded for his money back. He said he was in the middle of what was going on and he couldn't handle it. Fair. And he couldn't waste money on frivolous plastic? Fair. I asked him if he was sure, and even showed him the price the figure was selling for. At that point in time, the Chase figure was selling closer to $150, and he just had to pay retail price, so about $10 more for it. He said he was sure I made up the numbers, that he had ordered the figure for his son, but he didn't deserve it, and he just demanded his money back. I just said, fine, I'll give you your money back. Also, I'll just put this figure out for sale. He just said, whatever, just give me my money. I made a point to grab a post-it note that I used to put prices to not damage the box, write in big black letters, $90, last one, and put it on the glass window that leads to the street. I could see him turn his eyes while I did this. While my employee was giving him his $5 back and giving him a receipt, a young man knocked on the door. I gave him some cleaning goo, checked his temperature, and let him in. He immediately asked to buy the Naruto Chase figure. The angry man's eyes went wide open over his mask as I picked the POP and guided the young man to the desk where he handed me the bills one by one. The angry man stood there shocked as the younger man was gushing about how hard to get that figure was and how he was getting it for half the price other places were asking, and in such perfect condition too. I couldn't have had a better reaction even if I paid for it. The young man completed his purchase and left as fast as he came. The angry man looked at me almost as if accusing me of taking advantage of him. I just said, well, you got your money back, I'm happy, you're happy. If you need anything else, please let me know and stay safe out there. The man just didn't have much else to say and left. Kind of a small and silly thing to feel good about, but 2020 hit us so hard that any unexpected profit was cause for celebration. So we celebrated that good sale with some instant ramen, Naruto style.